Thousands upon thousands of the marine invertebrates have descended upon the shores near Shoalkind Village.
30 years of exploration, we've learned that siphonophores are abundant and play a key role in ocean communities.
Every year, the remains of bizarre ocean creatures wash ashore on beaches all over the world, giving us clues about what goes on in the mysterious world down below. And Australia is no different.
They are one of the only sea creatures in the world that can perform photosynthesis.
From strange alien-like creatures to hairy sea monsters to hordes of tiny penguins, here are some of our top picks. 1. Strange alien-like creature. A strange creature washed up on an Australian beach recently, leaving locals baffled. In early April this year, a man named Drew Lambert was jogging along Bondi Beach when he spotted a really strange animal washed ashore. He recorded a video and posted it on Facebook, captioning it, "Can someone tell me what this weird, alien-looking creature is that washed up at Bondi today?" Lambert, who has lived in Bondi for 2 decades, said the creature was about half a meter long, with human-like lips and skin similar to a shark. He added, "In all my years here, I've never seen anything like it. Where could it have come from? Perhaps a UFO that had crashed into the sea." Like and subscribe right now and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. After sharing the video, Lambert received thousands of skeptical comments. He now believes the animal could be a decomposing coffin ray with bloated intestines. A supervisor at Sea Life Sydney Aquarium caught wind of the situation and supported the idea that it was likely a coffin ray, also known as an Australian numbfish, typically found near the shores of Australia. Interestingly, this odd event happened just a week after another unusual beach discovery in Australia. Something strange was going on in the ocean because it's not usual for creatures like this to just casually wash ashore. 2. A second incident. Earlier that week, Alex Tan shared a video on Instagram after coming across something unusual while walking along a beach in Australia. In the clip, which quickly went viral, Tan looks into the camera and says he stumbled across something weird, the kind of thing people claim is an alien sighting. When he turned the camera to show what he found, there was a strange, unconscious creature on the sand, barely recognizable. It almost looked human. The comments section blew up with people also trying to figure out what the mysterious creature could be. Others, though, couldn't resist cracking a few jokes. One person wrote, "Experts say it tastes like chicken," while another added, "Given all the craziness we've seen over the last few years, does an alien invasion really sound that scary? Bring it on." The strange thing is, no one has been able to crack the case on this one because it's just never been seen before. 3. Strange albino whale. In another bizarre encounter, a local Australian kayaker came across the corpse of a massive 33-foot-long humpback whale on a secluded beach in Victoria. The thing that really shocked everyone, it was completely white, resembling a marble statue more than a dead animal. Despite the rare color, experts don't think the young female whale had albinism, where animals lack skin pigment, because there were some dark patches of skin. Instead, they suggested she might have had leucism, a condition similar to albinism that can cause uneven coloring. Another theory was that the whale's outer skin might have peeled off during decomposition, revealing lighter skin underneath. Where is Steve Irwin when we need him? 4. Hairy sea monster. Back in May 2018, a mysterious hairy sea creature washed up in the Oriental Mindoro province of the Philippines, causing quite a stir. The massive 20-foot-long carcass, dubbed the Globster, had locals bamboozled and holding their noses. Before scientists could examine it, people were wondering if they were looking at some kind of sea monster. It looked like a massive mummy. Turns out, according to experts, it was likely the remains of a whale. The hair-like strands covering the creature were most likely decomposed muscle fibers, giving it that hairy, monstrous look. Who would have thought that's what whales look like when they're rotting? 5. Fanged cannibal fish. Back in May 2014, people enjoying a day at Jeanette's Pier in North Carolina had an unexpected encounter with a pretty freaky fish. A scaleless, toothy creature washed up right in front of them. And just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, they realized the fish was actually still alive. Turns out it was a long-snouted lancetfish, a type of rare predator that usually lurks in the deep ocean, far away from the shore, especially during the night when it prefers to hunt. What makes these lancetfish so unique are their long, sharp fangs, which they use to feast on crustaceans, squid, and other fish, even their own kind. It's like something out of a horror movie. The beachgoers tried to help by returning it to deeper waters, but the poor fish ended up back on the shore later, suggesting it was too ill to swim back to safety. 6. Sharks with missing livers. In May 2017, South Africa's coastline became the setting for a real-life ocean mystery. 3 massive great white sharks washed up on the beach, which would have been shocking enough. But the real head-scratcher? All 3 sharks were missing their livers, and one was even without a heart. Talk about bizarre! Scientists immediately jumped in to investigate, performing necropsies to figure out what caused the strange deaths. After closely examining the sharks' bodies, they found out who the likely culprits were: orcas, also known as killer whales. These ocean hunters are known to prey on sharks, particularly targeting their organs. The sharks' injuries perfectly matched the way orcas attack, and it made sense. The liver is packed with nutrients and fat, making it a prime meal for the hungry orcas. Mystery solved, but it's still pretty eerie to think about orcas so carefully removing their favorite parts. 7. A half-eaten giant squid. One of the most mysterious creatures of the deep sea, the giant squid, made a surprise appearance in New Zealand, but in a less-than-whole condition. Tourists at Farewell Spit, a scenic nature reserve on the northern tip of South Island, stumbled upon the enormous squid washed up on the beach. What made the discovery even more surprising was that the squid was missing chunks of its tentacles, as if something had taken a bite out of it. The giant squid is already a rare sight, but this one was particularly impressive, with a body measuring around 13 feet long. Experts believed that the tentacles had been snacked on by surface scavengers rather than in a deep-sea struggle, meaning the creature likely died elsewhere and floated to the surface where opportunistic feeders had their way with it. Interestingly, Farewell Spit has become a bit of a hotspot for giant squid, with at least 6 washing ashore in the last 30 years. 8. Hundreds of tiny penguins. In a heartbreaking event, more than 500 of the world's smallest penguins mysteriously washed ashore across New Zealand. These adorable little penguins, also known as blue penguins, were found in large groups on beaches all over North Island over the course of about a month. The cause of their passing wasn't immediately clear, but something was definitely wrong. Experts took note that most of the penguins were severely underweight, with little body fat. This led them to suspect that warmer ocean temperatures, possibly caused by climate change, had driven their food, small fish and crustaceans, into deeper, cooler waters. Unfortunately, the penguins just couldn't dive deep enough to catch their prey, leaving them starving. As a result, many of them likely succumbed to either hunger or hypothermia, having lost the protective fat they needed to survive. It's a sad reminder of how delicate ecosystems can be. The few that were found alive were rehabilitated and prepped for their journey back to their home. 9. A beach full of sea potatoes. Cornwall in the UK is usually known for its picturesque beaches, but in August 2018, beachgoers were greeted by something far less charming. Penzance Beach was absolutely covered in strange tennis ball-sized creatures known as sea potatoes, or heart urchins, if you're boring. These little guys normally spend their lives buried in the seabed, but on this day, they decided to make an appearance in a big way. These sea potatoes are covered in tiny yellowish-brown spines when they're alive, and they like to burrow deep into the sand around places like the UK, Ireland, and Japan. So, what were they doing washed up on shore? Experts think this mass beaching was the result of a breeding event gone wrong, possibly interrupted by a storm. The urchins probably came out of their burrows to mate, only for rough seas to spoil the party and send them tumbling onto the beach. It's a strange sight, to say the least. 10. A whale's stomach. Imagine walking your dog along a beach and stumbling upon a weird giant blob of something that looks like it came from outer space. That's exactly what happened to Helen Marlowe while she was strolling along Marazion Beach in Cornwall. She found what looked like a huge, alien-like blob covered in seaweed, but strangely, it didn't smell rotten like you'd expect. Not sure what it was, she gave it a little nudge with her boot, and it wobbled like a massive lump of jelly. Helen posted pictures on Facebook, and it didn't take long for experts to chime in. They believed the blob was probably the stomach of a whale. Yes, a whale's stomach, likely washed up after the poor creature died somewhere out in the ocean. It's definitely not the kind of thing you expect to see on a casual beach walk. 11. Oarfish with massive ovaries. In June 2015, a rare and gigantic oarfish washed up on Catalina Island in California. These deep-sea dwellers are usually hidden far beneath the surface, so when one shows up on the shore, it's a big deal. This particular oarfish was a whopping 13.5 feet long, giving scientists a rare opportunity to study it up close. Besides examining its muscle structure and the strange, jelly-like bones that oarfish are known for, the researchers also got a look at its reproductive organs. And they weren't small. In fact, the oarfish had ovaries that were 7 feet long and weighed around 24 pounds. That's a whole lot of potential baby oarfish packed inside. 12. Decapitated sea lions. A grisly mystery unfolded on Vancouver Island in 2020 when several decapitated sea lions washed ashore. Even more puzzling, their heads were found neatly placed next to their bodies, leaving everyone baffled. Marine mammal experts didn't think hungry scavengers were responsible. Instead, they believed humans had a hand in the bizarre decapitations. At least 5 headless Steller sea lions were found between April and July that year. Whether the animals were killed or the heads were removed after they died remains unclear. Either way, it's a disturbing and unsolved mystery that still haunts those who study marine wildlife. 13. Thousands of penis fish. In December 2019, a storm in California caused thousands of strange, pink, and very phallic-looking creatures to wash up on Drake's Beach. Known scientifically as fat innkeeper worms, these 10-inch-long marine worms are commonly referred to as penis fish due to their shape. Normally, they live hidden in burrows in the sand, catching food with a mucus net they cough up. However, a strong storm shifted the sand and unearthed these odd creatures, leaving them exposed on the beach for everyone to see. It's not something you expect to come across on a day at the beach, that's for sure. 14. Aborted baby shark. A tiny shark washed ashore in the UK, but it wasn't just any ordinary find. This little one was probably a thresher shark, and sadly, it looked like it had been aborted by its mother before it had the chance to be born. Found on Southbourne Beach in Bournemouth, southern England, the baby shark was about 3 feet long, smaller than a typical newborn thresher. It was also confirmed to be a female because it didn't have claspers. What really stood out about this discovery were the oddities. The shark lacked front teeth, and there were no growth rings in its vertebrae. These unusual signs pointed to the likelihood that the shark hadn't fully developed and had been lost during the pregnancy. Shark abortions can happen when the mother is under extreme stress, which researchers believe could have been the case if the mother had been accidentally caught by fishermen. 15. Jellyfish party on the beach. In North Carolina, beachgoers and park rangers stumbled upon a strange sight: thousands of jellyfish that had washed up along the coastline. This massive swarm of cannonball jellyfish created what can only be described as a jellyfish jamboree on the sands of Ocracoke Island, part of the famous Outer Banks. These jellyfish, weighing about a pound each and stretching to 10 inches in diameter, resemble actual cannonballs in both shape and size. They're a pretty common sight along the southeastern coast of the US. 16. Magna Pinna. Now, if you thought you'd seen everything the ocean has to offer, get ready for the Magna Pinna squid. This deep-sea giant is rarely seen, but when it does appear, it's unforgettable, and not in a cute way. With sightings as deep as 20,381 feet below the surface, Magna Pinna, also known as the bigfin squid, is believed to live in one of the ocean's most mysterious zones. These creatures are huge, and they give off an eerie, almost alien-like vibe. Even though these squids are thought to be spread out across the world's deep oceans, only about a dozen have ever been spotted. Their appearances are so rare that each sighting is an event in itself. 17. Dumbo octopus. You might recognize the Dumbo octopus by its name. It's a nod to the lovable elephant in the classic Disney movie. But this octopus is very real and calls some of the ocean's deepest spots home. In fact, back in 2019, an unmanned submersible recorded one of these fascinating creatures swimming nearly 7 kilometers down in the Java Trench, making it the deepest living octopus ever caught on camera. 18. Vampire squid from the abyss. At the very bottom of the ocean, where light doesn't reach and darkness reigns, you'll find one of the strangest creatures yet, the vampire squid. Don't let the name fool you. It's not actually a vampire or even a true squid. Officially known as Vampiroteuthis infernalis, which literally translates to vampire squid from hell, this bizarre animal is the only member of its own cephalopod order. 19. Bloody belly comb jelly. The bloody belly comb jelly may have a gruesome name, but it's anything but terrifying. In fact, this deep-sea jellyfish is a beauty to behold. Shaped like a little heart and sporting a deep crimson color, it glides through the ocean, its tiny cilia refracting light to create a stunning, sparkling display. Ironically, in the depths where it lives, its red hue makes it practically invisible to predators. 20. The leaf sheep sea slug. Meet the Costaciella sea slug, also known as the leaf sheep for its cute, sheep-like appearance. This quirky creature doesn't just look like a plant, it sort of acts like one too. It spends much of its time munching on marine algae, but does something truly remarkable with its food.
They are one of the only sea creatures in the world that can perform photosynthesis.
Instead of digesting all of the algae, it keeps the chloroplasts, the part of the plant that turns sunlight into energy and uses them to photosynthesize, just like a plant. Talk about becoming what you eat. 21. Gulper eel. The gulper eel, also known as the pelican eel, looks fairly normal for a deep-sea dweller until it decides it's time to eat. Then, its enormous jaws stretch out and it inflates like a balloon on a stick. This unique lunge feeder uses its massive mouth to gulp down prey, along with a big mouthful of water. Once it's caught its meal, the eel expels the water through its gills and happily swallows up crustaceans, fish, or squid. 22. Japanese spider crab. If you thought spiders were creepy, wait until you meet the Japanese spider crab. This giant crustacean holds the record for having the largest leg span of any crab, stretching up to 12 feet from claw to claw. But despite its size, the Japanese spider crab isn't a fierce predator. Instead, it uses its spindly legs to scavenge for decaying matter on the sea floor. 23. Emperor shrimp. The emperor shrimp might just be one of the most colorful creatures in the ocean. These tiny shrimp spend their entire lives hitching a ride on the backs of sea slugs. It's a relationship that works well for both parties. The shrimp gets protection from predators thanks to the slug's chemical defenses, and in return, it helps keep its host nice and clean. With their bright, mismatched colors, these shrimp might be pushing the limits of fashion, but they sure know how to stand out in the crowd. 24. Johnson's Abyssal Sea Devil. You can bet anything called Johnson's Abyssal Sea Devil isn't winning any awards for cuteness. This deep-sea creature is as spooky as it sounds, yet somehow it looks a bit scared itself. It's a classic anglerfish with razor-sharp teeth, a glowing lure right between its eyes, and a belly that can stretch to swallow prey way bigger than itself. Talk about a crazy survival trick. Now, anglerfish don't exactly chase after their meals. They're more like the laziest fishermen ever. They use their glowing fishing rod, an organ full of light-making bacteria, to dangle a tiny light just above their mouth. Once some poor, curious fish swims too close, the anglerfish snaps it up in a flash. Given how scarce food is down there in the deep, this slow and steady approach is pretty genius for conserving energy. 25. Flapjack octopus. Now, if there's an underwater creature that's undeniably adorable, it's the flapjack octopus. With its big eyes, short, stubby arms, and fins on its mantle that look like little ears, it's a cuteness overload. Its name comes from how it spends most of its time, flat on the seafloor, looking like a squishy pancake. 26. Giant Larvacean. Despite what its name suggests, the giant Larvacean isn't exactly a giant. It's only about 4 inches long, but this tiny creature is a true architect. It builds an intricate structure out of mucus. Yeah, you heard that right. It's basically living in a mansion made of snot. This gooey home can be up to 3 feet wide and helps the larvacean filter food out of the drifting particles, called marine snow, that float down from above.
They eat tiny particles of dead or drifting plants and animals.
27. Bobbit worm. The bobbit worm is like the ambush predator of your nightmares. This monster can grow up to 3 meters long and hides in the ocean floor, with only its tentacles peeking out from the sand. When a fish or other unsuspecting creature gets close, the worm shoots out like a trap and snaps its jaws around the prey with such force that it's often sliced in half. This freaky hunter is all about stealth and speed. Definitely not something you'd want to stumble upon if you were a fish. 28. Dotto greenamieri nudibranch. This tiny sea slug, named Dotto greenamieri, was only discovered in 2015. It's about as small as your fingertip and looks like it's covered in way too many eyes. Spoiler, those aren't eyes. What you're seeing are actually chirata, which are toxic, finger-like projections that also function as gills. These bright chirata warn predators to stay away, kind of like a flashing neon do not touch sign. Oh, and they've been compared to stacks of pancakes or honey drizzlers, so there's that too. 29. Polychaete worms. Imagine a creature that looks like it came straight out of a Jim Henson movie. That's what you get with polychaete worms. These bristle worms from the family Nereididae live deep near hydrothermal vents where the water is scalding hot. Despite their strange, hairy appearance, they thrive in some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. Their hair, which is really a bundle of sensory bristles, adds to their otherworldly charm. With over 10,000 species of polychaetes, this class of worms is incredibly diverse. 30. The angel shark. Looking at an angel shark, you might think it got squashed by a steamroller. Its body is flat, almost like it's halfway between a shark and a stingray. But being pancake-like actually works in its favor, since it spends most of its time buried in the sand.
Angel sharks have muscles that pump water over their gills and through spiracles on their heads.
These sharks grow up to about 2.4 meters long and use their flattened shape to hide on the ocean floor. waiting for prey to pass by before they ambush. 31. Giant isopods. Imagine a woodlouse. Now make it about a foot long, and you've got a giant isopod. These eerie, armored creatures live far beneath the ocean's surface, about 500 meters down.
A giant isopod will be anywhere from 3 to 6 inches, and a supergiant, like this one, can be up to 2 feet in length.
Despite their scary appearance, they aren't as vicious as they look. They're scavengers, eating whatever they can find, from crab remains to marine worms. Not exactly picky eaters, but when you live that deep, food options are pretty limited. 32. Giant siphonophores. The giant siphonophore looks like someone sprayed silly string underwater. It's not one animal, but rather a whole colony of organisms, each with its own job. Some members sting and catch food, others digest it and distribute the nutrients, and a few are responsible for reproduction.
30 years of exploration, we've learned that siphonophores are abundant and play a key role in ocean communities.
Together, they form a massive creature that can grow over 40 meters long. If that's not one of the strangest setups in the animal kingdom, I don't know what is. 33. Sea pigs. Sea pigs are exactly as strange as they sound. These bizarre sea cucumbers look like they crawled off the set of a sci-fi show with their round, pink bodies and odd little legs. They live more than 3 miles below the ocean's surface and are super abundant. Though most people will never see one in person, their mode of movement is just as odd. They inflate and deflate their tubular legs with water, basically using hydraulics to move along the seabed. 34. Sea angels. Sea angels are like the ballerinas of the deep sea. These small, transparent sea slugs gracefully flap their wing-like appendages as they swim, making them look more like celestial beings than your typical slimy slug. They've evolved from gastropods, but their shells are long gone, and their muscular foot has transformed into those beautiful wings for swimming in open water. Which one of these crazy creatures do you hope never to run into? Have you ever been to a beach and seen something absolutely bizarre wash up on the shore?